Hey team, Sean from Rest to Live here. Thanks for jumping in. So look, here's the deal. Is Bitcoin going to drop down to 25K? Is it going to drop to zero? Is it going away in the next couple of months? Look, we know the answer. That's not going to happen here. So let's just talk about what's happening in the markets in general. We're seeing major tech stocks get really routed pretty badly here. Not huge corrections, but certainly corrections. All the names that seem to be attached to crypto, the Squares, the SoFis, the Palantirs, they seem to also be getting hurt here as well. Palantir being more on the stock, of course, more about the AI side of it, but still. And I think it's really important here to take a step back and realize that this is not new. This is the way it's been investing in a highly volatile space like crypto for a long time. This, by many, is considered a risk asset, and as such, is going to have large volatile moves until we see mass adoption across the spectrum here. It's very, very important that when you are in a space like a cryptocurrency, that you understand the risks, the way it moves over long periods of time, what that can mean for you personally. When I jumped into crypto in the early days, I call them the early days. They weren't that early, I guess, but in the hundreds of dollars a piece. Um, people thought that was high price, and we were getting in too late. And then it hit 1,000, and then 10,000, and then 15,000. And as it climbed up and got close to 20, we saw it come all the way back down again, and the world panicked, and it was over. It was dead. It was a scam. People who held on just waited out as long as they could, right? We start rise again, we start fall again, we start rise again and fall again. We've seen it go all the way up to all-time highs of around 70K and fall right back down again. So it's easy to look at this and think like, wow, I'm way off the highs here, but we're way above the lows here too. It's very easy to look at things in perspective, and that's the main key here. I think that what I also want to call out here is when you look at the charts and you apply a long-term mentality to this and not a trader's mentality, not a short-term view of it, it really changes the way we think about it. So I'm going to share my screen here for a second as I'm talking about it, because I want to just share some perspective. When I look at where we are today, as of the time of recording this video, we're at $42,690 per Bitcoin. And people are currently panicking because of how low this price is. I was in Bitcoin in hundreds of dollars. These first two numbers, they weren't even there. Those didn't exist yet. So you look at this today and you think like, okay, well, it doesn't look too bad on the 1-day chart, right? It's up a little bit today. Look at the 5 days. Yeah, not terrible, up 2% in 5 days. That's pretty darn great actually as an investment. Let's be honest here, right? Then we jump into the month and you say, it's not great, down almost 12% for the month here, right? Down $5,700, but again, it's still nothing that's too crazy. Where I think people start to get scared is they look at these time periods, right? That 1 month period of being down 12%, that's a lot, especially when other things are moving in different directions or we're starting to see some correlation to the equity markets. What you don't want, and I think this is what scares a lot of people with crypto in general, is I don't want my portfolio of equities to go down and then also watch my crypto go down. But I think it's interesting to point out that the more adoption and sort of mainstreaming we see in the crypto investment space, the more it's starting to feel like a real investment, right? Like we see risky stocks go down when there's risks. We see crypto go down when there's risks. Seems kind of like that makes sense, almost like it's becoming an actual investable item, right? If we jump out to 6 months, we're up 30%, guys. I mean, this is not play money. This is a 6-month return of 30% on your money. That's insane. I mean, just think about how we analyze around these numbers. It's huge. Forget about year to date, right? Because obviously we haven't had enough time. We're still in January here. But even look at the 1-year chart, right? We're up 10%. There's no panic there. 10% returns are great. Sure, it's crypto and we want more, but still, that's great. Anytime you start feeling bad about where crypto is, I always like to pull up a 5-year chart and think about where we got started here. So real simple here. In 5 years, things up over 4,500%. I know what you're thinking. Sure, only if you got in really early. But you can see there's been patterns, right? We hit that top of just close to $20,000. I remember being there as this was happening, like sitting and watching it. And then just inexplicably things went away. And I'll tell you what people forget though. This is when future options came out. People were able to start shorting. People were able to start betting against it. Institutions came in big time and started playing against it. And I remember watching those prices not align with the spot price and thinking, this is going to be a problem. People are going to misunderstand what's going on here. And then it came down and it came down and it came down and it came down. And it took a while, but you know what? Little by little, we start to see that movement pick up again. And then of course, right, we get that big old pop here. Now, as I'm looking at this, right, it came up, came down, came way up, came way down. And look what's happening again here. I'm not looking at this from a technical analysis perspective or any amount of years of experience doing it. I'm looking just from an eye chart view, right? And I don't know what's going to happen. Full disclosure, I have no idea. But what I see here is patterns keep emerging, right? These patterns are starting to look like traditional technical analysis patterns where we're getting a bit of a head and shoulders, we're getting a bit of a head and shoulders, right? Does this mean it's going to go up? Certainly not. Does it mean it's going to go down? Certainly not. So my advice here is really simple. When you're thinking about your own investments, you need to understand what your risk profile is. You need to understand if it makes sense for you to be in these kinds of positions, but also understand how it fits into the rest of your portfolio in general. So what I'm saying is don't panic over headlines. Don't panic over the craziness you see from people who don't know what they're talking about. Take a step back and look at anything over a 5-year period. It doesn't mean that past results are indicative of future events, but it is helpful to understand that this is not the first time something bad has happened. If I listened to everyone the minute there was panic, I would have been out all the way down here, right? After getting to $2,000, $3,000, people were saying, that's the end, it's over. 6,000, it was over. 10,000, it was over. 20,000, it was over. 30,000, it was over. And now sitting at 42,690, I don't think it's over. So keep that in mind. But also, let's keep one more thing in mind as well. Not all of these things are created equally. There's risk in everything that you might touch here. But the more high quality assets or more sort of built-in assets here that have been around longer with long track records, we know there's developers working on them, building plans. That's where you're sort of going to find that bit more safety net in what's relatively an unsafe place. So with that, team, I hope you enjoyed watching this. I want to share some perspective as I'm watching the negative news come out in droves, frankly. And that's really where we're at here. I think it's important to understand the risk. It's important to look at the right things. And with that, hey, let's keep trading. Let's keep doing this thing. Let's keep investing smart. Let's doing the right things for our own portfolios. So thanks everyone for watching. Have a good night and a good week.